Okay, so we have 4 people that have gone through scaling up, and we have set up a how do you call that? A presentation or a setup that we hope is going to be engaging and interesting for everybody. So it's not just them talking; it's also going to be you thinking, and that's why you have the red and green cards. But that will be clear in a moment. Short introduction. We have Marcel Corso, Senior Engineering Manager at MessageBird. We have Oleksandr Tryshchenko, Senior Engineering Manager at Personio. Paul van de Boor, Head of Product at Mollie. And Serge Beaumont, Principal Consultant at Xebia. Yeah? Correct? Great. Done my job. Yeah, sure. Okay.
Explain
the setup? Yeah. This one. Confusing. So we thought of a few statements, and we're going to ask you to respond on it. I will read it, and of course you can read along. For you, it's a little bit difficult to read, so listen carefully. The first one is about scaling technology. A scale-up always has to rebuild the original startup solution. So who has thoughts on that? And we're sharing what?
Tech always sucks.
Yeah. We selected a few people that were going to answer the questions, right?
Yes, that's
at the next. So now it's free.
We can all.
Okay.
And
So what do you think, Bishi?
Me? Yeah. I think. I think when you're in a scale up, when you're in a startup, you don't know where you're going most of the times, and you need to build things that work at that specific time, and that might not hold on for long. And this figuring out part is super important. But I think you'll build a lot of bad stuff, and I think building into the company as something that is okay to change. I think building the culture that is okay to change. I think it's the most important.
Yeah, I think additionally, what you see through the life cycle, right, is that you start with solving a particular niche problem for a particular target persona, right? And scaling up means typically that you proliferate the number of products that you serve, but also the number of types of customers that you're targeting. And so your solution, you cannot kind of keep on growing with the same solution, because the way you start, right, is by finding a particular spot that has not been solved by the market. Now that at some point doesn't scale infinitely. So by definition, I think the statement is true. You will have to go, if you want to grow and you want to be successful, you want to move to new customers. If you want to go to new customers, you need to build new products and new solutions.
Yeah. To add on top of this, I think the startup in nature is very flexible. You move from idea to idea, and the goal of you is to iterate quickly as fast as you can to check business ideas. And if you don't have to build your codes once you are scaling, probably you did business part wrong before. That's my take.
At least in my experience, I've noticed that what I would call a startup has always survival mode. They're sort of, we need to survive, we need to get any customer we can, so they'll take the original solution and just build warts on top of it to make sure that they'll actually just survive the next round of financing. And then they have to move into a maturity phase where they actually take all the warts and the ugly stuff they built and to make something that is sustainable. And that's when any startup has to move from a sort of a survival mode into something that is more professional. And I've also seen that therefore they also have to throw out their old tech because it was very hacky. Does that resonate with you? Was it also in your case that you had to rebuild everything, or? Yeah, I think a lot. But also if you would have built the optimum solution from the start, you would probably be bankrupt already, right? Yeah. Because it would be way too expensive. So it doesn't make, if someone builds a solution that still scales times 1,000, I think you've done a lousy job at the start because you've built something way too expensive. And I mean, I think the concept of MVP is important, right? You try to learn, you try to kind of move forward, and then along the way you change stuff. I mean,
Then at some point you come into a phase where there's a lot of old technology that doesn't fit your purpose anymore, and then it becomes very painful because a company wants to go fast, but it can't go as fast as it used to be anymore. And then you get into a very interesting cycle of rebuilding, re-architecture, and that's where a lot of you smart people can figure out how to build something a bit more scalable.
Great. Thank you for sharing. Is there somebody from the audience who wants to respond to this statement? Okay, no.
Can I add a contrarian view to the thing also?
Yeah.
I think there is the theory, but there's also the practice, and I've seen in practice that sometimes there is this one method that someone built in 2010 that stays and survives everything. And I think this is also interesting. And so yeah, not this, right? And that is also very interesting and a bit magical.
Yeah.
Son of Pearl.
Yes, big company in Amsterdam, in Pearl. Yes, I heard of it.
Okay, that's a long time ago. Okay, let's continue with and now you can get out your cards, the red and green ones, because we're going to ask this question. Yeah, you don't have them. So green is for yes, red is for no. Can a strong engineering culture be preserved without compromise during rapid scale-up phases? Show your cards, yes or no.
Yes.
Okay. Well, Serge, do you have a thought on this?
Yeah. There's no wrong or right.
The first thought I had on this was that, of course, it comes down to the definition of what is engineering culture. I would actually argue that the engineering culture is something you create in the scale-up, because there's a lot of sort of startup culture I've noticed a lot is very autonomous. The people who do it, they tend to hack a lot. And when I, as an agile consultant, I would come into a startup, like if you come into a corporate, they say, oh, you're making all these freedoms. In the reverse, if you come into a startup, they say, oh, you're constraining me so much and you're taking away all my freedoms and I hate you for that. So what I've also seen is that, and to me, engineering culture is also what is the shared responsibility you take when you look each other in the eyes as engineers of the whole company, saying, hey, what do we agree on? What is the shared values that we have on the engineering side? So I would actually argue that sort of the reverse here is that a strong engineering culture is you create during a phase like this.
Yeah, so we only do one per statement. Yeah. I missed the introductions. So that will be green or red for you? Summarize.
Yellow.
I think
Green. Okay. Well, everybody who had reds during the drinks, of course, you can invite Serge to discuss this.
No.
Next statement. So get your cards out, and it is, should the primary focus be on scaling the technology stack first before scaling the team?
solid.
A lot of reds, indeed. Yeah, Marcel, can I ask you to respond to this statement?
Yeah, I think I'm a bit red on this one. Yeah, I think getting the culture right, I think is maybe I would try to do it first, and not just the engineering culture, but the company culture. So I think it's more focusing on what's the software that is running on inside the people's heads instead of the real software. I think that will help out way more.
Okay, great. Thank you for your answer. Next one. Do you believe that remote and distributed teams can scale as effectively as co-located teams? A lot of green, some red. Oleksandr, can I ask you to respond to that?
Yeah. I thought it's going to be spicy, but it looks like there is alignment in the group. I believe that scaling distributed teams is as easy as scaling local teams. You just need to apply different set of skills. Myself been working since beginning of COVID with a bunch of different teams which went through the scaling process, and it was very good. You just have to learn how to organize the work differently and make sure that there is effective way how you can coordinate people and how you can calibrate people in their efforts. Like, I don't want to go into deep answer, but actually it might be a nice discussion for the year after. Like, if you don't build meritocracy, thank you very much. It might be difficult to make it work.
Okay. So that is promising for our drinks later. So we have a lot of conversations. Going to statement number 4. Is implementing a rigid hierarchical structure inevitable as tech companies grow?
Yeah.
A lot of red. But Paul, can you respond with?
Yeah, shit. Now I have to. I'm also very red. I think structure follows a strategy, right? So you build an organization because you want to achieve something. If you're in a scale up and you are in this kind of, if you've had product market fit, you have something that works, you're getting more money in, you maybe do your second, third, fifth, 10th product, you need to kind of change all the time because you're running into new problems. And that means you can't do the same as what you did. And therefore, you need to change your structure all the time because how else are you going to be able to change and adopt to the new challenges ahead? So, who is green?
Yeah, it's
One person. Well, I want to talk to you guys and then. Okay. We can't go into discussion, can we?
Yeah, it's very short. It's not what we want. I think this is what I see in practice. I see rigid hierarchical structures are created by companies because we simply don't have other tools. It's just like, oh yeah, how do we do this? How do we organize? Let's put a manager on top because it's the only thing we know. So it's not what we want, but it's what we end up doing. And that's my take.
Yeah, as I am the founder of Mollie, is sometimes also active on Twitter, and he will admit firstly that this is the biggest problem or the biggest thing that Mollie did wrong. It's very costly, and you kind of think, okay, we need people of experience, big CVs, but I think in practice that this doesn't work, and it basically destroys a little bit of what you try to achieve. Mm-hmm. So I think I'm super red, and it also happened to something like Mollie, right, at some phase, and. We're in a better phase now, but it's a challenge and a danger.
So, thanks. And I also like the being adaptable and adapting to your circumstances that you shared. So thank you for that. Another statement for you. So here you can go in discussion with each other. It's on scaling teamwork. In a scale up, so many new people come in that they destroy the original vision.
Spicy. Yeah, and I think it's a good thing because I think like the vision, right? We're not saying culture, or we're not saying the team spirit, we're not saying morale. I mean, you're hiring a bunch of people with new experiences, right? And if they come in and they don't bring new stuff and they don't create something new, I don't think you're ready for the next phase of growth. So I think it sounds like a great idea to destroy some of the old and create new stuff. Otherwise, you go and work at a mature company and you do the same thing all over again. That's not what we want. We want to scale up. We want to grow. And that's, so yeah, I think it sounds amazing. Let's create some new stuff.
I was wondering, you also noticed that in your experience that that it becomes incoherent. Like everybody's going in a different direction because it becomes hard to manage with so many people. Does that happen?
Yeah, at Mollie, I was employee 150, and then 2 years later, there were 500 people. At some point, you don't know where to go anymore. So I think there's a big problem around how you create alignment, the first part of your presentation, because like who's in charge, how, like you don't know anymore where you need to go to. So that I think that's a very big challenge, right? How do you scale up so fast? How do you create people that want to work for the thing? But all of these people are bringing new stuff. So definitely new stuff happens. It probably goes a bit slow. That's I think the challenge. Not so much that new stuff happens.
I also think it depends on the speed with which you grow. Like if you get people who come to the company and they contribute into the vision and evolve the vision, that's one thing. But what we faced in Personio is that we got our department, like engineering department, increased by 30% last year. And we have teams who are net new. Like most of the folks been in the company for less than like 6-9 months in the team.
Yeah.
And there is when you have to mitigate this kind of situation, because one thing is your vision evolving, and the second one when there is no shared vision and you need to have to build it from scratch for the new teams. So that's also the challenge.
Yeah, in 2018, is it okay with time? In 2019, I worked as a manager from a really special team, MessageBird is not Bird. That is, it was the onboarding team where all the engineers would join. And it was really interesting because we had people that were very diverse coming from big and small companies, and they wanted to go one way or the other way. And what we tried to do during this fast growing, I think speed is important, was to, what I tried, and the CTO at the time said that it was a good idea, to let them fail. So people would say like, I want to build this widget that is amazing, it's going to make us a lot of money. Okay, just try. And then they wouldn't find a way or something, or they would build something that was completely not good. And they had a month or two to do this kind of mistakes. And I think it really helped them to fight the right battles, simply.
Yeah. And if I speak first, like Xebia, actually, we're also growing. Like, for those of you who don't know, I've been with the company for 18 years now. I was like employee number 35, and now the total company is like 6,000 people internationally, something like that. And so one of the things, at least I've experienced in our company in growing so large, is actually the most troublesome thing becomes when they don't share your values anymore, or don't have the same outlook. And so, for instance, me being old guard, one of the things, they send all the new managers to me, and basically they're there to be like, our color is purple, right? So we paint them purple, that's what we send. So one of my roles nowadays is actually to have these conversations with new leaders and saying, what are the fundamental values that we hold? How do we think? Why do we think in the way we think? And therefore sort of preserving some of that culture. And so it's also good if you have some of the old guard on board, at the value level, right? The things we do, the products we have, they can all change. But if you're coherent at the value level, you can really make sure there is a coherence that you can carry through. That's also, I really like your presentation, Arno, on that, because you're basically saying the same thing. So yeah, it makes sense.
You want to respond?
Yeah, just like the point about the values. I think the values also changes in time, right? Because when you look at Facebook values, build fast and break things, and then build fast and with concrete infrastructure, then build fast privacy first. all the things happening in the company, values can change, and that's normal part of the life cycle.
I would argue that, at least if I look for the Xebia experience, our values have not changed. They were defined somewhere in 2000, or even before I came to the company, and they've been consistent throughout. I think by definition, you want or how do you say it? The things that are your values, you want them to be consistent. That's the point of values, that they are consistent. And if you're saying, hey, the values changed, my argument would be maybe those weren't the right values. Maybe the value all along was just make more money all the time. That's the real value, but it's not really politically correct. So let's not say it that way, but we'll make it something else beautiful. So it doesn't really matter what the values are as long as you're consistent with them. And I think in our case, I could not imagine our values fundamentally changing, because it would make our company a fundamentally different company. So sort of, it's by definition, if that makes sense. Like, you have to choose to abide by those values, instead of saying, maybe to summarize, if we would change our values, we would simply not be Xebia anymore. We would become a different company. Which could be right or wrong, right? But it's what it is. And I think I would argue our values are something that's going to stay forever.
I tend to agree on this. Like, I usually see the company values as something like mutual agreement between employees of the company and something that you cannot put on the contract. And it describes the model which you operate in, and it's the values which you intend to value despite it being rational or not. Sometimes company or employees make sacrifice to value the values they agreed on. And I think that's like they really matters as long as they are consistent and as long as both parties respect those values. Like once one of the parties start changing the rules of the game or doesn't fulfill those rules in the moment of inconvenience for the company, I think that's the moments when employees start just mocking the values of the company and it becomes a buzzword.
Great. Well, and thank you for your contribution or remark. We're going to the next statement, so you can grab your green and red cards again. And we'll go into visual statements. So the first one is, what's more important for a scale-up, speed or quality?
Yeah, we were discussing before. Everything is depends.
Yeah, so we have red. Okay. Paul, can you give us your insights on this or your opinion?
Can I see you one more time? Oh, it's very mixed. Okay, I'm very green. I think speed is more important than quality, but that's of course a ridiculous statement because that doesn't say much. I think the word I would use is velocity. I think moving in the right direction, I think at a high pace is the most important thing to succeed. What I've seen also is that teams that are very productive and very fast also deliver way better quality because you can iterate and you can change things. I think if you put a bunch of smart people in a room, and engineering people and product people are relatively smart, they start to overthink a lot of problems, right? And there's a bit of a paralysis analysis dynamic that you see happening all the time. I think teams that are really successful create flow, create momentum, and create progress. And I think that's a holy thing in the teams that I'm working with. I think we need to move step by step in the right direction. And then the outcomes will follow, and the quality will also follow by itself. So I'm very green on this. Although, it's also a bit ridiculous to say we don't want quality, but I think you get to quality by moving fast.
Interesting. Thanks for sharing. We'll go to the next one.
But I can imagine that you need to meet certain level of quality to be able to sell out. So, it's somewhere else in the middle.
Yeah, true. I mean, if it's not good enough, then it's not good enough. But what I think is then what typically happens, right? You build something and then you can go to a customer or to an internal review. And then, hey, it's not good enough. Boom, next cycle. I think where you can go wrong is by getting all of these analysis going, thinking through the solution, thinking through how it scales in 5 years from now. I mean, it's very theoretical. I think we're in a fight to typically scale up, right? You get a bunch of money. That money kind of disappears because you've put that into new people. That means that you're burning cash all the time. That means you need to go to results very quickly. And I think there's simply no luxury to think through how you're going to think about the future in 3 years' time, because your competitor that also got a bunch of money is moving as fast as you are, and you're basically going to get effed if you don't move fast. So I'm very green, still. But I also think you need to have quality. There are exceptions, of course, but for instance, if you work in a platforms team, right, where you're managing the quality of the less product focus, right, more like, hey, you need to create a uptime. Now, I think there it becomes, their quality is probably a little bit more important, but overall, I would still say I think speed is important.
Yeah, I just want to make a quick addition for Arena.
Okay.
I tend to believe in Pareto law. I think you can invest 20% and 80% of the quality, and then you get into area of diminished returns. Like, for example, if you write tests, you can write like the first suite of tests, which is going to give you like 80% of confidence. And then you get into diminished returns territory. And same with availability, for example, you mentioned. Like getting to 99, 95 is rather easy. Getting to 99, 99 becomes much more difficult. And like this 0.04% of availability is like half of the efforts you're going to spend in the quality. I think that's the decision you need to make as a scale up. And here is the area where I tend to agree with Lydia.
Thank you. I like it.
Great. We're going to the next statement. More food for more food for drinks, but more input for the drinks. Next one. What's more important for a scale up? growing the team or preserve the culture? It depends. There's no card. It depends. Choose. Alexander, do you want to respond on this?
Yeah, I think neither of those.
Neither of those? Okay. Okay. What's the most important for a scale-up?
In my opinion,
One word.
In my opinion, you don't really have a choice most of the time. If, for example, your competition is growing, like you have to grow as well to remain afloat, and you have to scale. But I think it's important to scale with the speed and the process, which helps you to retain and evolve your culture, so you don't run completely off rails.
Well, that's the third option then. We're going to the third statement. What's more important for a scale-up, autonomy or centralization? God, you all have listened well.
Right.
I do see some red. Marcel, do you want to respond on that?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's one and the other. Sometimes more of one, less of the other. I think centralization is also super important for achieving super high speed. Sometimes people tend to have too long conversations or something, and centralization really solves the problem. And really hard decisions are better taken by one or two people, and I think this is super valuable in a scale up. In general, I would say autonomy for teams, but I think for big decisions, it's hard. Yeah.
Okay. So we'll go to the next one. What's more important for a scale up, hiring locally or hiring remote?
The marathon.
Show your nice piece.
Hiring robots.
Here's the word to incredibly.
Serge, what is your type of this?
For me, this is just, I think, just based on practical experience. If we're taking this in the Netherlands, there is no other way but you have to hire a remote simply because we can't find the people in the Netherlands itself. As simple as that. If I look at all the people over here, there's quite a lot of you who do not come from the Netherlands. This is a case in point. So, and for me, I really love the fact that it's sort of the diversity comes with it, new viewpoints. That's, I think, enriching, but it's a personal opinion. But I think from a practical perspective, if any business in the Netherlands wants to scale hard, they have to hire remote. That's easy. Just this, you can't get all the people in the Netherlands itself.
Thank you for sharing. The last
Statement is about scaling leadership. So this is where you can discuss. Founders are not the type of leaders a scale-up needs. Ooh.
Fire the phone. This is recorded.
Camera. Gee, do we still have a job after this one? I actually, I think that's true. I think in our case, at Mollie, Adriaan wasn't in the management team for a couple of years now. But I do say that you do need him though, right? You do need the founder to actually get from A to B. The only problem is you just don't only need the founder, and you need a bunch of people next to the founder. I think founders have a magical understanding of where they want to go, and they are leading by example. They can move pieces of the puzzle centrally, the hard decisions, understanding truly what the customer needs. But it's also very clear that founders are a particular type of people. This is recorded. In general, right? There's all the stories of different founders that we all know. And it's also very clear that some of these people are very dysfunctional if they would be in charge of all the parts of a company. But yeah, they do bring superpowers, so you need them, but you have to have a strong sidekicks or maybe a more central leader. So yeah, that's my thought.
I will scale it a little bit, like beyond just founders. there is this romantic dream of people who join startups that's like, I'm joining the startup today, and somewhere in 5 years we're going to IPO and I'm going to be like VP of this big company. But it rarely happens, because if you are doing your job in your current level correctly, it doesn't necessarily translate as like by managing successfully 50 people today, you're going to manage 5,000 effectively. And it's understandable why companies are going outside and try to bring somebody with the relevant experience to play safe, to get somebody who did it before and understand how to scale the company. But also to give it a justice, from experiences I know, usually founders remain around, so like even if they are not playing direct role they were playing before, they are usually still on the boards and they participate in decision making to some extent.
And the other perspective?
I think if I look at also our founder, of course I also have a founder, right? We're so aligned with the company. And I think a pattern would be that they tend to micromanage may not be the word, but they've been in the day-to-day practical operations so much that they tend to have very strong opinions about this exact thing here and that exact thing there and that exact thing there. And you go like, dude, that's my responsibility now, let go. And I've also seen that instead of abstracting away and saying, okay, I have to let go of the day-to-day, which is so much more fun, they just stay in there and stay in the practical things. And that's what I've at least seen a lot, is to what extent is a founder able to let go and let other people do day-to-day and they just do the bigger picture. Whereas before, they had all the fun with all the tech or whatever it was they were doing. And even our leader, Daan Teunissen, exactly the same, right? It was very hard for him to let go.
And
I see you smiling, we know all about it,
Yeah, so I think like one interesting thing is, do you have a culture where you can actually challenge the founder to do this? So I know like somebody with very big balls, and Miro actually did it, and just in all hands with everyone like asked this question to the founder, like, do you think you are still the right person for this job? Yeah, and he responded very well to it. He's still there though. But it means there's this culture where you can actually ask this question. I thought that was pretty volatile.
Yeah, how safe is it to speak up to the founder? Yeah, so being a founder of a startup doesn't mean you're a good leader, right? Those are two different things. Okay.
Right. So thank you for your responses. Is there any questions from the audience with regards to scaling up or startups or any other things?
Or to individuals, also fine.
Or to these 4 individuals? Nothing? I mentioned drinks too much. I think that's it.
you sold it.
Yeah.
I think I have one.
You have a question? Yeah.
I don't want to be the point.
You're the person.
I am the person. Alrighty. It might be a typical question, but I would like to understand, what was the top one challenge that you faced in the growth stages that you've seen in your respective companies?
Yeah, can I start? I think different parts grow at different speeds. So, for example, the legal department doesn't grow as fast as the engineering department, and there is this analogy that I have in my head. There's the Pyrex, right? You put the Pyrex on the oven, and then it really it doesn't break if it all grows together, right? And then there is a lot of attrition that happens. So I don't know, getting contracts for everybody is an example, or hiring people everywhere in the world is complicated, and changing the processes all the time to be okay with those different growths. I think this is super hard, and I've seen this go bad, and it hurts people. And but I think now we learned, at least I learned, that is good. Yeah, how to do it better. Yeah. Is it too deep?
At Mollie, I was a chief of staff, and we raised, I think in 4 years, $800 million. To actually deploy all of that money in a way to invest in the right people and actually make something happen. I think the biggest challenge was how do you, in God's name, make all of those people work effectively together and actually drive progress fast? I think too much capital and too much money and too much ambition. I think that's what happened in every startup, right? That's why there were so many layoffs. It's just a recipe for very little output and a lot of wasted time of people also, right? So you hire all of these super talented people. They have a dream, they come work, they sold a cushy job at a cool startup or a cool scale-up, freshly tanked with new capital. And then you get there and it's like, yeah, it's still very nice and the people are amazing, but what am I actually going to do here and how am I going to drive impact? I think that's been super challenging. And it really requires a lot of the things that we discussed today in the panel to go right? You need to have a very strong vision. You need to kind of organize yourself aligned and autonomous, and you need to, and I think to do that right, I think it's super challenging in a environment that's changing all the time. And it's very fun if it goes right, but if it doesn't go right, it's also super frustrated because you tanked in all of these super energetic, ambitious people, and they don't get what they came for always, right? And I think that's also very difficult if you're an outside engineer. You want to assess, like, hey, am I going to get that type of experience at this company? It's impossible to understand because I was lucky when I joined Mollie. I had a terrific path. There were people that joined 2 years later. They were just like, yeah, is this what I came for? It didn't go as fast as I expected. So yeah, I think that's a really challenging thing and a really interesting problem to solve for leaders, but everybody also in the company.
Great. Well, thank you for sharing. I want to thank our panelists for coming up stage and being so open about your challenges and your experience. So please give them applause.